And the reason I've chosen these components to review is because they're made of titanium. And the main properties of titanium are the fact that it's very light but really strong and hard. So really, this material lends itself to the guitar. Before I get into the unpacking, I'll just take a look on the website to show you what it says there about them. Looking at the Guyker website, they really do have a massive range of guitar components for virtually every make and model of guitar. And even in the Gibson style tailpieces and bridges, there's a great choice. So I'm going to have to come back to this website in the future to review some more of their items. On the item page, it says Guyker GS001 and GM005-Ti titanium Tune-O-Matic bridge and stop bar or tailpiece with anchors and studs for LP SG guitars. For those of you who are new to the world of guitars, LP stands for Les Paul, which is a Gibson model. I think most people know that. And SG is another model of Gibson, but not a lot of people know it stands for solid guitar. The bridge and stop bar can be bought together, or you can buy them individually, just the bridge or just the stop bar. And the description they give is basically an engineering drawing with all the sizes and dimensions. However, this is probably the most important thing you need, because it isn't guaranteed to fit on all guitars. I'll explain this in more detail later. Right, let's get into it. The unboxing, or more appropriately, the unpacking. The bridge and the saddle arrived in a padded envelope, and they took about 10 days to 2 weeks to arrive, and this is because they were shipped internationally. So be aware of this, and if you want something, order it before you need it. Inside the envelope is a very flashy black and gold Guyker envelope with Guyker guitar and bass parts written on it. I'm speeding up parts of the unpackaging just to prevent the review from getting too boring. Finally, inside the Guyker padded envelope are the components, all wrapped in tissue to prevent them from banging against each other and getting scratched. But the tailpiece has one extra layer of protection, which is like a thick cling film material. And there we have all the contents of the bag. We've got a bag of fitments, the tailpiece and the bridge. I'll take the fitments out of the bag now so we can take a proper look at everything. Finally, you can see what we've got. And we've got 4 studs, 2 for the tailpiece and 2 for the bridge, an Allen key, the tailpiece itself, and of course the bridge. The first and most obvious test is to make sure that the posts fit onto the bridge and tailpiece correctly. So I'll just try that first. You can see just by looking at these components that they're really well engineered. Everything fits together perfectly, and the threads are smooth and deep. Something that's not standard to most Tune-O-Matic bridges is a grub screw to tighten the bridge onto the post, and this is what the Allen key's for. And the Allen key fits the grub screw perfectly. Something that I've noticed while I've been handling these parts is the weight. They're incredibly light. Feels like you're handling plastic almost weight-wise, even though you know it's metal. To demonstrate this, I'll weigh them, and then I'll weigh a standard tailpiece bridge setup. Firstly, I'm weighing all the components individually, and then I'll weigh them all at once to get a grand total. If you need those figures, I'll show them at the end when I've finished weighing them. So you can either do a screen capture or pause the video and write down what you need. Here's all the individual weights, and I'll also weigh all the components now to get a total and to confirm I weighed them correctly in the first place. The total weight is 139 grams. I'll do the same thing again now, but with a standard stop bar and bridge set. And then when I finish this process, I can compare the two different sets of weights. It's quite clear that each of the components in the standard set is heavier than its equivalent in the Guyker set. I'll get a total now so we can compare those. The total weight of all the regular components is 197 grams, meaning that the Guyker components are 58 grams lighter. Which means if you were to take away the bridge from the regular components, they'd still be heavier than all the Guyker components. Now, whether lighter components are an advantage or not, I'll let you decide. But if you are trying to cut the weight of your guitar, this will make a little bit of a difference. Another thing I've noticed about the Guyker bridge is that it's got more travel on the intonation setting than a standard Gibson bridge or Epiphone bridge. And I know some people will find this useful because I've been asked about this in the comments in the past. Here's an Epiphone ES339 bridge, which is about 8mm. Here's a Gibson standard 1960s, which is about 8mm. Here's a standard generic, which is about 8mm. And here's the Guyker, which is about 11mm. So, if you need more movement in the intonation setting, this might be your answer. But if you are thinking of buying either a new bridge or a new tail stop or both, you really need to measure up your own guitar first. And the most common fitting that's different is the stud diameter, both on the insert that goes into the body of your guitar and on the actual post. So here you can see the Guyker alongside the Gibson, and you can see the Gibson is far smaller, and I know that the insert is a smaller diameter as well. So I can say categorically that this Guyker bridge won't fit on the Gibson standard 1960s. But even though the tail stop is a different diameter and the insert, the tail stop itself will fit on the existing posts. However, when I put the bridge alongside an Epiphone, you can see the diameter of the hole is the same as the diameter of the hole in the existing bridge, and indeed the tail stop is the same. So both the bridge and the tail stop and the inserts will fit on the Epiphone. Hopefully you can see now why an important part of the description on the website of these components was the engineering drawing, because this shows you all the sizes that you'll need to check it with your guitar. If your guitar has got the smaller inserts, you can still buy a Guyker titanium bridge for that guitar, because they produce the bridge in two sizes. The larger insert is the GM005-Ti and the smaller insert is the GM001+-Ti. Because I've already established that it'll fit, I'm going to replace the Tune-O-Matic bridge and tailpiece on this Epiphone ES339. And as this is more of a review video than a how-to video, I'll speed up through most of it so it doesn't get too boring. The first thing to do is remove the strings. Now, if you want to reuse the strings, you'll obviously have to wind them off, but these strings are shot, so I'm going to cut them off and throw them away. The next thing to do is remove the existing bridge and tailpiece and put them to one side. I wouldn't normally do this, but this time I'll put the new bridge and tailpiece in place just to show you that they'll fit. And then if you're a bit nervous about removing the studs, it demonstrates you don't have to. Now I'll put the new bridge and stop bar to the side for a moment and I'll unscrew the studs. Even though the video here is speeded up, you can still hear a loud squeak as I remove the posts, and this is because of corrosion. And of course, this is one of the advantages of the titanium. It just doesn't corrode in the same way. Here, I'm demonstrating that you can screw the new studs into the existing inserts. And this is to reassure you that if you don't want to remove the inserts, you don't have to. To remove the inserts, the first thing we have to do is establish the depth of the holes. And we do this just by sticking something in and marking how deep it goes. It's a good idea to check all the holes, though most of the time they're about the same depth. Then we cut a piece of bar or a piece of bolt to that depth minus a centimetre. This doesn't have to be exact, it only has to be approximate, because we're just going to drop this into the hole. Then we put the post back into the hole and start tightening it. It will eventually reach the bar, at which point it will get a bit stiffer, but keep screwing it, and as you screw it, it will lift the insert out of the hole. Then you turn the guitar over and tap the back of the guitar so the bar falls out. You can use the same piece of bar to remove all the other sleeves, just doing the same thing. Drop the bar in the hole, put the post into place, tighten it up until the sleeve comes out, and then take the bar out and move on. Once you've removed all the inserts, just take a quick look inside all the holes and check there's nothing that'll get in the way of the new inserts going in. And then firstly, place the inserts on the top in place and tap them down with a plastic or rubber hammer. Sometimes they'll push into place, but sadly on this guitar it was a tight fit. And in fact, one particular one, the last one, took a lot of persuasion before it eventually went home. However, it did eventually. The most difficult part of this whole job is just removing the inserts and replacing them. But once that's done, the rest is very straightforward. You just place the studs into place, making sure you put the tailpiece ones where they belong and the bridge ones where they belong, because they are different, and then screw those down. Something I didn't do, but I would recommend if you've never done this job before, is to measure the height of the bridge, and then you can screw the new bridge in to the same height, and then any adjustments that need to be done will only be slight. When I do a job like this, if it's possible, I like to line up the screws. And something I always do is take a look at the original bridge and put the new bridge alongside it and make a rough copy of where the saddles are sat, so that the intonation is at least close when you put the guitar back together. It will need some adjustment, but if you set it to the approximately correct, the adjustments will only be slight. Once you're happy with the way the bridge looks, we can put the bridge and the tailpiece back on the guitar and then restring it. Even though I copied the positions of the saddles as closely as I could, I still had to adjust the intonation to get it exactly right. And obviously the action height needed to be reset as well. This is something you should be aware of. So if you've never adjusted the action height or the intonation, it would be worth learning how to do this first before you started this job. I've done several videos on how to set the action height and intonation on different guitars, but I've never actually done one on a Tune-O-Matic system, so I'll have to get that done in the next few weeks. And once it's been explained, it's actually very easy, so there's nothing to be scared of there. Some of you might be wondering why I didn't do a before and after sound test. And that's because the guitar, before I fitted these, was in a state it needed a service and new strings. So a before and after test would have been really disingenuous. However, I will be making another video in the future where I do a detailed sound test of a more representative guitar, that being a solid-bodied Les Paul style. Some of the reasons you might want to change the bridge and tailpiece on your guitar are corrosion or damage on your original tailpiece or bridge, or you might be trying to reduce the weight of the guitar, or you might have a problem where you're breaking strings regularly, and roller saddles can really help with this because they're far kinder with the strings. And finally, because the strings can move more freely over the top of roller saddles, they can help your tuning stability, especially if you've got a tremolo system. Conclusion. If you want to upgrade a guitar or improve it step by step, these components would make a big difference. However, you need to be aware that they are expensive. At the time I filmed this video, they were $100, which is as much as some guitars. So really, you have to be sure that your guitar is worth spending that kind of money on. But if it is, these parts are very good. Saying this, some guitars go beyond monetary value. If you've had a guitar for many years and it really needs a facelift, this is an option that you could consider. Looking at the tailpiece and bridge, the engineering is really good and the finish is really good. They are really nicely made. However, they're not a lot different from the original components, so if you're trying to change the look of the guitar, these aren't really the thing for you. However, if you're looking to improve the overall quality of your guitar, and you want to keep it looking as original as possible, these are the thing for you. So basically, they're expensive, but they are made of a very expensive material, titanium, and they're very well made. so you're getting what you pay for. And that's about all I can say about this titanium tailpiece and bridge. So if you want to find out more, I'll put the links down below in the description to the product pages on the Guyker website, and I'll put all other relevant links there as well.